Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is Want to Seriously Improve Your English Listening Skills?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, of all the skills, that's the one that seems to keep people up at night. More than grammar, more than writing. It's listening.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we need to just, address the elephant in the room right from the get-go. I want to ask you, and I want you, the person listening right now, to think about this. How many times have you been watching a movie or maybe listening to a podcast or even just, in a cafe and you're straining? You are physically leaning in, trying to catch a single word you recognize, and it's a blur.
It's like a wall of sound coming at you.
It is. And you just give up. You let out this huge sigh and you reach for the remote to turn on the subtitles.
Every single language learner on the planet has felt that exact heavy feeling. It is a universal experience. It's almost a rite of passage, unfortunately.
It really is. And it feels like you've done the work, You've got the flashcards, you've studied the vocabulary.
You know the rules. You could probably pass a written test on the material, but when it comes to the actual real-world application of just hearing it, the walls just go up.
And it feels so personal, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like, oh, this is a difficult task. It feels more like I'm just not smart enough for this, or my ears don't work the way they should. It's a real knock to your self-esteem.
That is the tragic part of it all.
Yeah.
We internalize this struggle as some kind of, personal failing or a lack of talent. But the reality, and the science on this is very clear, is that listening is, for most people, the hardest skill to conquer.
Harder than reading.
Significantly harder than reading or writing. And it has nothing to do with intelligence. It's because spoken language is, it's wild. It's an untamed beast. It's fast, it's messy, and it absolutely refuses to follow the neat, tidy rules you see printed in a textbook.
And that's exactly what we're going to be digging into today. The whole mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We are not just going to sit here and give you the same old advice like, just listen more.
Oh, I can't stand that advice.
Me neither. Everyone says it. Oh, just immerse yourself. Just have the radio on for 8 hours a day.
Which is, by the way, some of the worst advice you can give someone. It's actually counterproductive. It leads to burnout faster than almost anything else. It's like throwing someone who can't swim into the deep end of the pool.
They don't learn to swim.
They just drown. And they develop a fear of the water.
Right. So our goal today is to talk about changing how you listen. It's not about the sheer quantity, it's about the quality and, most importantly, the strategy behind it.
That's the crux of it. We're moving away from the idea of quick fixes or magic pills because, frankly, they don't exist. This is a journey. And to start that journey, we have to deconstruct why it's so difficult. We need to look at the science of it, the linguistics of it.
And then from there, we can build a solid foundation. Look at the habits, the mindset, and then finally give you a whole tool belt of strategic exercises and resources that actually work.
Spot on. It's a roadmap from understanding the problem to actively solving it.
So, Section 1, deconstructing the struggle. I think before we can even talk about solutions, we have to validate this feeling of frustration because it's not just in your head. There are real, tangible reasons why you can ace a grammar test, but completely fail to understand a simple conversation in a loud bar.
It's the classic gap between what we call textbook English and real English. And I want to stress, this isn't a small gap. It's a canyon. It's a huge chasm.
Okay, so break that down. What does textbook English sound like?
Textbook English is perfect.
Oh, yeah.
The sentences are complete, subject, verb, object. The grammar is flawless. The audio tracks that come with the textbooks, they're recorded by professional voice actors in soundproof booths, and they enunciate every single syllable.
Hello, how are you today?
Exactly that, crisp and clean. But reality, real English it's a beautiful mess. It's chaotic. People interrupt each other constantly. They start a sentence, change their mind halfway through, and go in a completely different direction.
They mumble. Or there's a siren going by outside, or a coffee machine grinding away in the background.
All of that.
Yeah.
It's a chaotic data stream. And if you're struggling to make sense of it, that's not a failure of your intelligence. It's a completely normal reaction to an incredibly complex task.
And maybe the first layer of that complexity, that chaos, is what you call the hidden maze.
Yes, the hidden maze. And that's all about the sheer variety of the language itself.
You're talking about accents, the fact that English isn't just one single thing.
It's a global language, which is, a wonderful thing. But for listening comprehension, it can be an absolute nightmare. You might spend years in school getting used to a very standard clipped British accent, what's called received pronunciation.
That's what a lot of European schools teach, for example.
Right. You've trained your ear for that specific sound profile. But then You get a job, and your boss is Australian.
Oh, the Aussies. That's a whole different ballgame.
It is. With that rolling intonation, the way their vowels shift. To an untrained ear, the word day in an Australian accent can sound a lot like the word die. Or you meet someone from the American Deep South with that slow, rhythmic drawl where a one-syllable word stretches into two or three.
And that's not even counting the regional differences within one country. I mean, you can go from London to Liverpool, then up to Glasgow, and it feels like you've crossed 3 different linguistic borders.
You absolutely have. I have friends, native English speakers from the U.S., who admit they have to turn on subtitles when they watch a show set in Scotland.
So if native speakers struggle with it, what hope does a learner have?
Well, the hope comes from understanding what's happening under the surface. See, learners get tripped up because they expect the sound they hear to match the spelling they memorized. They have this print version of a word in their head.
Like a photograph of the word.
A perfect description. But native speakers, we don't speak in neatly separated photographs. We speak in sound units. We swallow sounds. We link words together. We're efficient.
And this brings us to that fantastic example from our research that made me laugh because I realize I do this all the time without thinking. The jeet yet example.
Jeet yet is the perfect illustration of why listening is so hard. It's the key to understanding a concept called connected speech. So in your textbook, you see 4 distinct separate words.
Right. Crisp and clear. Did, you, eat, yet. 4 separate islands of meaning.
But in fast, casual American speech, nobody says that. It's too slow. It's inefficient. English is what we call a stress time language, which means we instinctively race from one stress syllable to the next, and we crush everything in between.
So what happens to did you eat yet?
The did and the you get squashed together.
Yeah.
The did sound from did and the y sound from you merge, and they create a completely new sound, a J sound. In linguistics, that's called palatalization.
Palatalization. Okay, that's the technical term.
So did you becomes did you. Then the eat blends in, and the final T on eat often gets held or dropped. So the whole phrase collapses into one single unit of sound, jeet.
Jeet yet? It sounds like a sound effect from a cartoon.
It does. And here's the problem. If your brain is scanning the audio stream, looking for the distinct sound did, you will never find it. It's not there. The signal you're listening for doesn't exist in the real world, so you miss the entire meaning of the question because you're looking for a clarity that a system built on efficiency just doesn't provide.
We're lazy speakers. That's what it comes down to.
We are. We connect sounds to save energy and time.
Yeah.
And so the learner is left standing there, still trying to process the first sound, while the native speaker has already finished the sentence and is now waiting for an answer about lunch.
And it's not just the sounds linking together. It's the sheer relentless speed of it all. This is a massive distinction from reading.
A huge one. Writing is self-paced. If you don't understand a sentence in a book, you can stop, you can reread it 5 times, you can put your finger on a word and stare at it, you can go look it up. You are in complete control of time.
But listening doesn't wait.
Spoken English is relentless. It's a river. It just keeps flowing. It doesn't pause for you to process the last phrase before it hits you with the next 3. And native speakers, unless we're talking to a small child or we can see you're completely lost, we don't consciously slow down.
And then on top of the speed and the link sounds, you have to throw in the logic gap, idioms, the cultural code that isn't written down anywhere.
Idioms. The bane of every learner's existence.
I mean, you hear a phrase like hit the books. If you're translating that literally word for word, your brain is creating an image of someone physically slapping a hardcover novel.
Which is a very funny mental image, but it does not help you understand that it's time to go study.
Not at all. Or someone says they'll take a rain check, or they're feeling under the weather. These phrases are not logical. They're cultural shorthand. And if you're trying to process them literally in the middle of a fast conversation, your brain is just going to crash.
You're trying to decode a cipher, but nobody ever gave you the key. And, all of this, the accents, the speed, the connected speech, the idioms, it all leads to the biggest barrier of all. And it's not a linguistic one.
It's the one inside your own head.
It's psychological. It's emotional. There's a concept in linguistics called the affective filter. It's a brilliant idea. Basically, it says that if you are feeling stressed, anxious, bored, or self-conscious, an invisible wall goes up in your brain and it literally blocks language input.
The fear of not understanding.
That's the trigger. When a learner is listening and they miss a word, a little panic response goes off in their brain.
I've felt that. You miss one single word, and suddenly your heart rate speeds up, your palms get a little sweaty, and you completely stop listening to the rest of the sentence.
Because you're obsessing over the one word you missed. What was that word? Was it important? Did I just miss the key to the whole sentence?
And while you're having that internal monologue, you've just missed the next 10 words. It's a snowball effect of panic.
It is. And it's driven by performance anxiety. You feel like you're on a stage under a spotlight. If I don't understand this perfectly, I am failing. I am a bad student. Everyone will think I'm stupid.
We have to completely reframe that mindset. This is so important. Listening is a skill you practice, not a test you pass or fail.
You have to give yourself grace and realize that native speakers misunderstand each other constantly, all day long.
That is so true. I mean, think about your daily life. How many times a day do you say something like, sorry, what was that? Or come again? Or the connection's bad, I didn't catch that.
All the time, especially in a noisy restaurant or on a bad phone call. But when a learner has to say it, they feel this wave of shame. They see it as proof of their incompetence. When a native speaker says it, it's just conversation maintenance. It's normal.
We have to kill the myth of perfection.
Oh, please. That myth is so damaging. And social media just pours gasoline on that fire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You scroll through Instagram or YouTube and you see these ads. Speak like a native in 30 days. Or unlock native-like fluency secrets.
It sets this completely impossible and frankly unnecessary bar.
It's just marketing nonsense. It's designed to make you feel inadequate so you'll buy a course. The goal isn't perfection. Let's just say that again. The goal is not perfection. The goal is confidence and comprehension. Can you get the main idea? Can you participate in the conversation? Can you connect with another human being? That's the real prize.
We found some really powerful stories from actual learners that illustrate this exact shift in mindset. There's a story of Ana from Brazil.
Ana's story is such a perfect example of a turning point. On paper, she was an advanced learner. Great grammar, huge vocabulary. But she used to get so stressed watching movies, she would obsess over every single word.
If she missed a preposition, it was a catastrophe.
A total catastrophe. If she didn't understand a slang term, she'd pause the movie, look it up, and feel like she was failing. So she decided to try an experiment. She was just going to let go.
What did she do differently?
She made a conscious choice to stop chasing every single word and just focus on the broad strokes. Who is in this scene? Are they happy, sad, angry? What is the general topic they're discussing? She let all the little words, the grammatical glue, just wash over her.
And what happened?
Suddenly, movies became fun again. She wasn't taking an exam, she was enjoying a story. And the incredible thing was, her overall comprehension actually went up because she was relaxed. Her brain wasn't in panic mode.
That effective filter you mentioned earlier, it came down.
It came crashing down. And then there's the story of Min from Vietnam. His story is more about social bravery.
I think Min's story is going to resonate with a lot of people because his problem was hiding his confusion.
He was a master of the smile and nod. We've all done it. Someone says something to you, you have no idea what it was, but you're too embarrassed to ask, so you just smile and nod, hopefully.
The danger nod, because you have no idea what you might have just agreed to.
It's so dangerous. You might have just agreed to work all weekend. So Min decided to stop faking it. He armed himself with a few simple phrases coping strategies. He started just saying, I'm so sorry, could you please repeat that? Or, I missed that last part. What was that again?
And he found people weren't annoyed.
He realized people didn't judge him at all. They just repeated themselves. Maybe a little slower, a little clearer. Giving himself that permission to be honest about his comprehension gaps was a massive confidence booster.
So, okay, we've established why it's so hard. It's the messy sounds, the speed, the jeet yet phenomenon, and the internal panic. But we can't just admire the problem. We need to move into building a system to fix it.
Absolutely. This is where the rubber meets the road. If you want to build a house, you can't just start throwing bricks in a pile. You need a foundation. And for listening, that foundation is built on habits.
I think a lot of people, when they get motivated, they try the binge approach. You know, they make a New Year's resolution. Okay, this Saturday, I'm going to do it. I'm going to listen to English for 5 solid hours.
And by hour 2, their brain feels like it's melting and dripping out of their ears. They have a headache, they're irritable, they hate English, and they never want to do it again.
Why is that so ineffective? It seems like more hours should equal more learning.
Because listening requires a massive amount of cognitive energy. Your brain is performing multiple complex tasks at once, in milliseconds. It's decoding sound waves, parsing grammar, searching its mental dictionary for vocabulary, and predicting what's coming next, all at the same time. You simply cannot sustain that level of intense focus for 5 hours.
So what's the alternative? We still need to get the hours in, right? You need exposure.
We need the hours, but we need them to be distributed. We are huge advocates for what we call the daily microdose approach.
I like that term microdose. It sounds manageable, almost medicinal.
It is medicine for your ears.
Yeah.
And the principle is simple. Consistency beats intensity every single time. You are far, far better off listening for 10 to 15 focused minutes a day, every single day, than you are doing a 5-hour marathon once a month.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though. 15 minutes. That sounds like nothing. Can you really make progress in just 15 minutes a day?
You're not trying to learn the entire language in that 15 minutes. What you're doing is keeping the neural pathways in your brain open and active. It's all about frequency. If you go 3 or 4 days without any listening practice, your brain starts to think, oh, I guess this English network isn't important anymore, and it starts to prune those connections.
It's like going to the gym.
It's exactly like that. 15 minutes a day tells your brain, hey, this is important. Keep this network strong. Keep it efficient.
And the beauty of 15 minutes is that everyone has 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There are no excuses. This is where you can reclaim all that dead time in your day.
That's the secret. You don't need to find a new hour in your schedule. You use the time you're commuting to work, the time you're washing the dishes or folding laundry, walking the dog, the 10 minutes before breakfast while the coffee is brewing.
You're integrating it into the life you already have, rather than trying to build a new life around your language learning.
You don't need to move to London or New York to get immersion. That is a total myth. You need to create immersion at home. You curate your own environment.
So instead of listening to the local radio station in your native language on your drive, you put on an English podcast. Instead of scrolling through social media, you watch a 5-minute vlog in English.
It's about making smart swaps. And this all ties directly into the science of neuroplasticity. We throw that word around a lot, but for listening, it's really what's happening. You are physically rewiring your brain. Listening is a brain skill. It's a muscle.
Let's go a little deeper on how that muscle actually works. You mentioned the brain processes sound in a couple of different ways.
It does. Broadly speaking, there are 2 modes. The first is bottom-up processing. This is where you hear a sound, your brain identifies it as a phoneme, like B or P, then it groups those into a word, then it figures out the grammar of the sentence, and it builds the meaning from the smallest pieces up.
That sounds slow and exhausting. That's the leaning forward and sweating phase of learning.
That's exactly what it is. It's what beginners have to do because they don't have enough data yet. But then there's top-down processing. This is what native speakers do almost exclusively. We use context, our background knowledge of the world, and our expectations to predict what's coming. We don't need to hear every single sound perfectly because we already know what the word is likely to be.
So our goal as learners is to move from being a bottom-up listener to a top-down listener.
Precisely. And regular daily exposure is what builds those predictive models in your brain.
Yeah.
But to do that effectively, we need a healthy diet of 2 different types of listening practice. This is a distinction people often miss.
Right. Active listening versus passive listening. And it's not a case of one being better than the other. You need both.
You need a balanced diet. Think of passive listening as creating an environment. It's background noise. You're cleaning the house, you're exercising, and you have an English radio station or podcast on. You aren't focusing 100%, you're not taking notes.
So what's the point then?
The point is that your brain is absorbing the rhythm, the flow, the melody, the intonation of the language, like a warm bath for your ears. It gets you used to the sound of English without the pressure of comprehension. It's incredibly valuable for tuning your ear.
But that alone isn't enough. You can't just, learn by osmosis while you sleep.
No, the sleep learning idea is a myth. You also need to do the heavy lifting, and that is active listening. This is when you are focused, pen in hand. You're sitting down for your 15 minutes, you're paying close attention, you're trying to catch specific details, you're sweating a little bit.
That's the workout.
That's the workout. That's where you force your brain to engage, to check if your top-down predictions were correct, and to build new pathways when you get something wrong.
And speaking of getting things wrong and sweating, we have to touch on the growth mindset again, because even with this perfect plan of microdosing and a mix of active and passive listening, you are going to have days where you feel like you don't understand anything.
You will. That's guaranteed. And this might be the single most important mental shift you can make. You have to learn to rebrand the feeling of frustration.
What do you mean by rebrand?
When you feel that sense of struggle, when your brain feels like it's hurting because you can't quite grasp the meaning, that is not a sign of failure. That is the feeling of your brain stretching. That is the feeling of growth. That is you leveling up.
So frustration is actually a good sign. It means you're in the gym and you're lifting a weight that's heavy enough to make a difference.
It means you are pushing at the edges of your current ability. If you understood everything perfectly, if it was easy, you wouldn't be learning anything new. You'd just be reviewing. You'd be in your comfort zone. Frustration is the sensation of your comfort zone expanding.
That's a powerful way to look at it. It completely takes the sting out of that feeling.
An actionable tip here to make that tangible. During your active listening sessions, when you hear a word or phrase that completely stumps you, don't panic, just jot it down. You can even just write it phonetically, how it sounds to you, then look it up later.
Why is that so helpful?
Because that list of stump words becomes a record of your growth. 6 months from now, you'll look back at that list and you'll know every single one of those words. It's concrete proof that the struggle is paying off.
Okay, so we've got the foundation. Daily microdoses, creating an immersive environment at home, a mix of active and passive listening, and rebranding frustration as growth. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the strategy. How do we move from just listening more to listening better?
This is the key, because you can listen for hours and hours passively and not make much progress. You need a strategy. We've identified 3 types of targeted listening that you can practice.
All right, let's break these down one by one. Strategy number 1 is what you call listening for gist.
Gist is the big picture. Imagine you're at a crowded party and you overhear a conversation happening across the room. You're not trying to hear every single word, every article and preposition. You're just trying to figure out the basics.
Like, who is talking? Are they arguing or are they laughing? What's the general topic?
The vibe. The vibe. Exactly. The scenario. When you listen for gist, you're practicing your top-down prediction skills. You're training your brain to relax and just get the main idea without getting bogged down in tiny details you don't understand.
Okay, that makes sense. First pass, just get the lay of the land. What's strategy number 2?
Strategy number 2 is listening for details. This is something you would typically do on a second listen of the same piece of audio. Now, you're not listening for the vibe, you're hunting. You are a detective with a magnifying glass.
So you're looking for specific pieces of information. What time did the train leave? What was the name of the book? What color was the car?
Precisely. You are forcing your ear to engage in bottom-up processing. You're training it to distinguish specific sounds, like the difference between 30 and 13, or to pick out a name from a stream of speech.
And strategy number 3 is my favorite because it almost feels like a magic trick for your brain. It's called predict and confirm.
It's an incredibly powerful cognitive tool. The idea is to prime your brain before you even hit play. You look at the title of the podcast episode or the YouTube video. Let's say it's called The Future of Space Travel.
Okay.
Before you listen to a single second, you pause and ask yourself, what words do I expect to hear in this audio?
All right, so for the future of space travel, I'm thinking rocket, Mars, Elon Musk, NASA, astronaut, gravity, maybe colonization, fuel.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What you've just done is you've activated all the relevant vocabulary and concepts in your brain. You've opened the right files, so to speak. Now, when you press play and you hear those words, your brain recognizes them instantly. It snaps onto them much faster.
So you're not just passively receiving information, you're actively anticipating it.
It turns listening from a passive activity into an active game. It's like playing bingo. Did I hear rocket?
Yeah.
Yep, there it is. It keeps you engaged and focused.
But even with these great strategies, what you choose to listen to is hugely important. There's a real danger of picking the wrong material.
This is what we call the Goldilocks zone. It's absolutely critical. The linguist Stephen Krashen has a famous theory about comprehensible input. The input has to be just right.
So let's break down the zones. What happens if the material is too easy?
If it's too easy, say you understand 95 to 100% of it, that's wonderful for your ego. You feel like a listening genius, but you're not learning anything new. There's no challenge, no friction, no growth. You're just reviewing.
And what about the other extreme? You get ambitious and you try to listen to, I don't know, a university lecture on quantum physics. You understand less than 50%.
You panic. It just becomes white noise. Your brain can't find a foothold. It can't find enough known words to even begin to guess the meaning of the unknown ones. It gives up. It tunes out. That's the frustration zone where people quit.
So we need the sweet spot. Not too hot, not too cold,
That's right.
just right.
The sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone, is where you understand roughly 70 to 80% of what you're hearing. You understand the main context, you can follow most of the sentences, but there are just enough new words, fast phrases, and unfamiliar structures to challenge you. That is where learning happens.
So that zone will change as you improve. For a beginner, that might be a children's story or a slow news broadcast.
Then you might progress to podcasts made for learners, like TED Ed, which are fantastic because they have visuals to support the audio. And then eventually, your Goldilocks zone will include advanced sitcoms, documentaries, and native-level podcasts.
Now, I have to push back on one point here that's related to strategy. Repetition. You're a big advocate for listening to the same audio clip more than once, and I have to be honest, that sounds incredibly boring. I already know what happens.
It only feels boring if you think of it as just rewatching. Think of it as reanalyzing. Repetition is a language learning superpower. Let me explain why. The first time you listen to something, especially something in your Goldilocks zone, your brain is in survival mode.
Okay, survival mode, I get that. You're just trying to keep your head above water.
You're just trying to get the gist. You're scrambling. But the second time you listen, the survival pressure is gone. You already know who the killer is in the mystery. You already know the punchline of the joke. Your brain can relax.
And what does that relaxation allow it to do?
It frees up cognitive bandwidth. Now, instead of just scrambling for meaning, your brain has the capacity to notice the nuance. It can hear the subtle intonation that signals sarcasm. It can catch that little idiom you completely missed the first time. The unfamiliar phrases start to become clear because you now have the context. You simply cannot get that level of depth from a single pass.
That's a great point. It's like watching a really complex movie, like Inception or The Matrix, a second time. You suddenly see all the clues and foreshadowing you missed because you were so busy just trying to follow the plot.
That is the perfect analogy. On the second pass, you're not just consuming the content, you're appreciating the craft. You're noticing the language itself.
Let's talk about some specific fun ways to practice. Some mini challenges to push our limits because just sitting and listening can get a bit stale.
Okay, a great one is shadowing. This is a technique used by polyglots all over the world. It's where you repeat what you're hearing aloud with the speaker.
At the same time, not repeating after them, but with them.
As close as you can get, maybe a half-second delay. You're not just repeating the words, you're trying to mimic everything. Their rhythm, their pitch, their intonation, their pauses. It forces your mouth to move at the speed of a native speaker.
That sounds really intense.
It is exhausting. You can probably only do it for a few minutes at a time. But it's an incredible workout because it physically connects your ear to your mouth. It trains your brain to process sound at native speed.
Okay, what's another challenge?
A simple but scary one. The no subtitles challenge. Pick a show you know well, something you've already seen, and force yourself to watch it without any subtitles at all. Force your ears to do all the work without your eyes helping out.
That is the scary one. Okay, and a third.
Summarizing. This is a fantastic test of true comprehension. Listen to a 2-minute clip of a podcast, then pause it. And out loud, try to explain to an imaginary friend or your dog or just the wall what you just heard.
And if you can't explain it,
then you didn't really understand it. You might have recognized the words, but you didn't grasp the meaning. It immediately exposes the gaps in your understanding.
Okay, this is all great. We've got the habits, we've got the strategy. Now we need the gear, the tool belt. We have a list of fantastic resources, but let's not just list them. Let's talk about why each one works and who it's best for. Let's start with podcasts. The Portable Language Lab.
Podcasts are just ideal because there's something for every single level and every single interest.
So let's name some names. Let's say you're at an intermediate level. You can handle a basic conversation, but you need things to be pretty clear and structured.
For that level, you cannot go wrong with 6-Minute English from the BBC.
Why is that one so good?
A few reasons. First, the length. 6 minutes is perfect. It's not intimidating. Second, the structure is brilliant for learners. They pose a question at the start, they pre-teach you 2 or 3 key vocabulary words, they have a conversation, and then they review the vocabulary at the end. It's a perfect self-contained lesson.
Very safe, very scaffolded. What else?
Voice of America Learning English is another excellent one. Their main feature is that they broadcast the news at a slightly slower speed, maybe about 2/3 of the normal pace. It just gives your brain that extra split second to process what you're hearing.
And for something a bit more conversational, a bit more cultural,
I'd recommend All Ears English. This is for the intermediate to upper intermediate learner who wants to understand American culture and how people really talk. The hosts are very high energy, and their motto is connection, not perfection. It's great for bridging that gap between textbook and real life.
Okay, now let's level up. You're advanced. You want the real deal. You want to suffer a little bit in a good way.
Then you are ready for This American Life.
Ah, the final boss of listening practice.
It really is. It's a radio journalism show, and what makes it so difficult is that they interview real people, not actors. People on the street, people on a crackly phone line, people in windy parking lots with background noise. And the host, Ira Glass, has a very natural, almost mumbling style. He stammers, he interrupts himself.
He sounds like a real person thinking out loud.
Exactly. If you can understand This American Life comfortably, you can pretty much understand anything. Then you've also got Radiolab, which is fascinating but challenging because of its complex sound design. They layer music and sound effects over the voices. It's chaotic auditory environment, which is actually great training for the real world.
And for news, something like The Daily from the New York Times.
Fast-paced, topical, with interviews with experts who use very specific vocabulary. Fantastic for building your lexicon. The key with all of these is that they almost always offer free transcripts online. That's your safety net.
Let's move on to YouTube. There's a big advantage here with the visual component, right? You can see the person's mouth move.
Yes, that's a huge advantage. It's related to something called the McGurk effect, which shows how much our eyes influence what we think we hear. Seeing lips move helps your brain distinguish between similar sounds like B and P. So for general, fun daily English, we have to recommend English Addict with Mr. Duncan.
Mr. Duncan, an absolute legend of English teaching on YouTube.
He's been doing it forever. He's hilarious, very expressive, uses lots of gestures. He just makes learning feel very accessible and fun.
And for someone who really wants to dig into the mechanics of pronunciation, the G-yet stuff.
Then you go to Rachel's English. She is the authority on American pronunciation and connected speech. She uses diagrams. She shows you close-ups of her mouth. She explains exactly where your tongue needs to be to make a certain sound. If you want to understand the why behind the way Americans sound, she is the ultimate resource.
And the key technique here is to use the closed captions as a crutch, not a wheelchair.
A perfect way to put it, always try watching without them first. Only turn them on to check something you didn't understand. Don't just read along.
Okay, apps. Everyone loves an app. It's gamified. It's on your phone.
For pronunciation, which directly helps your listening, LLSA Speak is fantastic. It uses AI to listen to you and give you feedback on your specific sounds. The logic is, if you can produce a sound correctly, you're much more likely to recognize it when you hear it.
And what about for talking to actual people?
For that, you have apps like HelloTalk or Tandem. These are language exchange apps. And yes, talking to real people is scary, but it's necessary. A great feature is that you can send and receive short voice notes. This is low-pressure listening. You can listen to your partner's voice note 5 times if you need to before you record your reply.
That's a great bridge to a real-time conversation. And for content consumption.
Apps like LingQ and ListenWise are amazing. They let you import articles or listen to podcasts within the app, and you can read along and tap on any word you don't know to get an instant definition. It removes that friction of having to stop and look things up in a dictionary.
And a really fun one for music lovers, lyric straining.
This one is so addictive. It's basically karaoke meets a fill-in-the-blanks quiz. It plays a music video, and the lyrics are on the screen, but some of the words are missing. You have to type them in as the song plays. It's an incredible way to train your ear to pick out specific words in a fast, sung stream of language.
Okay, let's talk TV and movies. This is the advice everyone gives. Just watch Friends or watch The Office. It's a cliche, but is it good advice?
It is good advice, but only if you watch with purpose. You can't just zone out on the couch. We recommend the 3-step pro tip for watching.
Okay, walk us through the 3 steps.
Step 1. Watch a short scene, maybe just 3 or 4 minutes, with English subtitles on. The goal here is just to understand the plot, get the meaning.
Got it. Meaning secured.
Step 2. Immediately rewatch that same scene, but this time with no subtitles at all. Now, your brain already knows what they're saying, so it can relax and focus all its energy on how they're saying it. You're connecting the sound you're hearing to the meaning you already have in your head.
And step 3.
Step 3 is the active part. Rewatch 1 or 2 difficult lines from the scene and mimic the actor. Say the line out loud. Try to match their emotion, their speed, their rhythm. If a character mumbles a joke, you try to mumble the joke in the same way.
That's that deep, active engagement again. Finally, let's talk about audiobooks and the power of transcripts.
Audible's great, or LibriVox for free classics.
Okay.
But the killer technique here is reading while listening. Get the physical book or the ebook and read the text while you listen to the narrator.
Some people might say that's cheating. You're not really listening if you're reading.
It's not cheating, it's calibration. It bridges the gap between the written word you know and the spoken sound you don't. You see the word enough on the page spelled E-N-O-U-G-H, and at the exact same time you hear the sound enough. Your brain forges a permanent link between that strange spelling and its actual sound. It's incredibly powerful for fixing those. I know the word when I read it, but I never recognize it when I hear it. Problems.
We've covered so much ground. Habits, strategies, resources. But here's a big problem with listening practice. It's invisible. You can see a stack of essays you've written. You can see a filled-out grammar workbook. But how do you prove to yourself that you're actually getting better at listening? This brings us to tracking progress.
You absolutely need a listening journal.
That sounds like homework, and I know people listening are thinking, oh no, not more homework.
It's not homework, it's data. And you need data because our feelings lie to us. You'll have one bad listening day where you just don't understand something, and your brain will tell you, see, you've made zero progress in the last 6 months. You're a failure. That's a feeling, not a fact. The journal gives you the facts.
So what should we be tracking in this journal?
It's simple. Create a log. Every time you do an active listening session, you write down the date, what you listened to, for how long, and then you give yourself an estimated percentage of how much you understood, and maybe jot down 1 or 2 new words or phrases you learned.
And what's the payoff for doing that?
The payoff is magical.
Yeah.
It comes 3 months later. You look back at your entry from January where you listened to a specific podcast episode and wrote, total disaster, only understood about 40%. They talked way too fast. Then in April, you go back and listen to that exact same episode again. And suddenly you understand 80 or 90% of it. And you realize, wait a minute, they aren't talking fast. I was listening slow. That tangible, undeniable proof of progress. Wow, this used to be hard for me and now it's not. That's the dopamine hit that keeps you motivated.
It proves the neuroplasticity is real. The muscle is actually growing.
It proves the work is working.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's quickly troubleshoot a few of the most common obstacles people face, because the road is definitely bumpy. Obstacle number 1, we hear this all the time. They just talk too fast.
The solution here is simple, and I want to give everyone listening permission to do this. It is okay to slow down the playback speed. YouTube, Netflix, most podcast apps, they all let you change the speed to 0.75x.
But doesn't that feel like cheating? It's not how people talk in the real world.
Is riding a bicycle with training wheels cheating? No. It's a temporary tool for learning. Use 0.75x speed as a tool to help your ear distinguish the individual sounds and the boundaries between words. Then, once you feel comfortable, you nudge it up to 0.8x, then 0.9x, and eventually back to normal speed. Don't live at 0.75x, but use it to build your confidence.
Great advice. Obstacle number 2. I always miss the small keywords like prepositions or articles.
For that, the best medicine is an old-school technique. Dictation practice. It's simple. Listen to one sentence, pause the audio, and try to write down exactly what was said. Every the, every of, every at. It's a slow, meticulous exercise, but it forces your brain to pay attention to those small, functional words that native speakers often swallow.
And the final big obstacle. I just get so bored.
Then you must stop listening to boring things. This is the biggest crime in language learning. People force themselves to listen to podcasts about economics or politics because they think it's serious and educational, but they hate those topics.
So the learning becomes a chore.
It becomes a punishment. The solution is to follow your genuine interests. If you love video games, listen to gamers on Twitch. If you love gardening, watch gardening tutorials. If you love cooking, watch Gordon Ramsay yell at people in a kitchen.
Because if you're genuinely interested in the topic, you will fight so much harder to understand what's being said.
Your curiosity becomes a powerful engine. It will pull you through the difficult parts. Your desire to know the recipe, or to find out who won the game, or to learn the end of the story, will override the frustration of the language itself.
So bringing this all together, what we've really outlined here is a personalized growth plan.
Let's do a quick recap of that plan. Number 1, set clear, concrete goals. Don't just say, I want to get better at listening. Say, I want to be able to understand 80% of the weekly meeting at work, or I want to watch 1 episode of The Office without subtitles by the end of the month.
Number 2, rotate your resources. Don't get stuck in a rut with just one podcast. Mix it up. Some easy 6-minute English, some challenging This American Life.
That variety keeps your brain alert and exposes you to a wider range of accents, speeds, and vocabulary.
Number 3, track your wins. Use that listening journal to give yourself concrete proof of your progress. And number 4, find a community. You are not alone on this journey.
That is so crucial. Just knowing that there are millions of other people out there also struggling with Jeet yet makes the whole process feel less lonely and isolating. Join online forums, use the language exchange apps, talk to other learners about what's working for them.
As we close out, I want to leave everyone with a final provocative thought. We've talked a lot about techniques and apps and brain science. But what's the bigger picture? Why are we even doing this?
I think it's so important to remember at the end of the day that listening isn't just about processing linguistic data. It's not just about decoding sound so you can pass a test or get directions to the train station. It's fundamentally about connection.
A bridge to what?
A bridge to other people. Every time you struggle through an audio clip, every time you rewind it to listen again, every time you bravely ask someone, "Can you please repeat that?" You are building a bridge to understanding a whole new culture, a new perspective, a different way of seeing the world. Listening, true listening, is an act of empathy. It's saying to another person, "I care enough about you and what you're saying that I'm willing to work hard to understand you."
So the aha moments aren't just about understanding a word.
The aha moments are about understanding a person. They're coming. You just have to stay in the game long enough to hear them.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to put it. It's about empathy as much as it is about vocabulary.
Absolutely. That's the real prize.
Thank you for diving in with us today. If you found this helpful, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. See you next time.